Alright guys, here is the 7th learning target and the last one of the B range, and it is finding the equation of a line through a point given that it is parallel or perpendicular to another line. So in order to do this, the first thing that we need to know is we need to know the equation of a line, and there's two different methods for doing the equation of a line. One is called slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. The other is what's called point slope, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now, I don't know that I have a exact preference, but to do this one, I really like the second way. I like the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And the reason is because in all of these type of problems, they're giving me x1, y1. And they're going to tell me an equation of a line, and they're going to tell me whether it's parallel or perpendicular. So actually, I'm going to be able to find the slope. So I'll have m, I'll have x1 and y1, and I plug all that stuff in, but I actually end up always solving it for y anyhow. I just don't like to do a double substitution coming back. I like to just solve. So let me go ahead and show you some examples of what I'm talking about with all of this. So question number 1 wants me to write an equation for a line that contains the point 1, 7. So that is x1, y1. And then it says that it is perpendicular to the line y equals negative 2x minus 7,390. Well, that means this slope here is negative 2 over 1. So my perpendicular slope, if you remember slopes, and you are a master of your slopes, a perpendicular slope is the opposite reciprocal. So negative 2 over 1's opposite reciprocal is positive 1 over 2. And now I just write the equation of the line. Y minus y1, in this case y1 is 7, is equal to the slope 1/2 times x minus x1. In this case, that is a 1. So I will distribute. So y minus 7 equals 1/2 x minus 1/2. And then when I add 7 to both sides, the only thing that changes is that negative 1/2. So my equation, when it's all said and done, the left side is y equals 1/2 x. Negative 1/2 plus 7 is 13 over 2, or 6.5. Either way is fine. So my equation is y equals 1/2 x plus 13 over 2, or 6.5. Again, if I wanted to put in 6.5, I would have used the slope as 0.5. I would have written that as a decimal. All right, that takes into account the fact that it is perpendicular. Negative 2 is one slope, and positive 1 over 2 is my other slope. And it will go through that 0.17. All right, here's a second example. It says write an equation for a line containing, here is my x1, my y1, and now it says it has to be parallel to this line. So my parallel slope is the same slope. So if I look, I don't see the number, I just see the sign of the number. It is a negative 1, so my slope is still negative 1. And now my equation, y minus y1, 0, equals the slope, negative 1, times x minus x1, which is a 2. Y minus 0 is just y. If I distribute, negative 1 times x is negative x, and negative 1 times 2 is 2. My equation is y equals negative x plus 2. All right? I need to find slope, and then I need to plug my point in. So sometimes you'll see the problem written a little different. Here's problem number 3. It shows you a graph of a line. It says on the grid below, the line S is graphed as well as the point 2, 4. It says draw a line that is parallel to S through 2, 4. Write the equation of the line below. Well, in order to do that, I need to know the slope of S. Well, it looks like it goes through this point. It looks like it goes through this point. So this means that the slope is rise of -1 and a run of 2. So the slope of point S, the slope of line S is -1 over 2. Well, then if I want to find the equation, y minus y1, so this is x1 and this is y1, y minus y1 is equal to the slope. Now, this says parallel, so the parallel slope is also -1 over 2 times x minus x1. Notice that I use the same slope, so the slope of the parallel line is also -1 over 2. Okay, so this is y minus 4 equals -1 over 2x. -1/2 times -2 is +1. And then I add 4 to both sides. And the equation is y equals -1 over 2x plus 5. And if I needed to graph that plus 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 means it has to go through that y-intercept. And there's a line that is parallel to S and goes through the point 2, 4. Right, in part B, looks like something got cut off here. It wants to draw a line perpendicular to S. So the same kind of thing. We're going to do the same process. The only difference is my new slope, my perpendicular slope. If the true slope was -1 over 2, my perpendicular slope is +2 over 1, opposite reciprocal. Point x1, y1, still the same thing. What changes? Well, it's y minus y1 equals the slope, 2 over 1, times x minus x1. So you'll notice that the only thing that changes from the blue equation to the red equation is the slope itself. So y minus 4, I'll distribute. That's 2x minus 4. Add 4 to both sides. The equation is y equals 2x plus 0. That equals 2x plus 0, which means it goes right through the origin. And if it's going to go through the origin, there's the graph of that equation in red. So it is perpendicular to the black line, actually perpendicular to the blue line as well, because the blue line and the black line are parallel. So it is actually perpendicular to both lines. So in order to find the equation, the first thing you have to do is use the point x1, y1 and find the slope based on whether it's parallel or perpendicular, which means you may have to do some opposite reciprocals. Sometimes the equation is going to be a little messy. You're going to have to solve for the slope first, and that's okay. Sometimes they're going to give you an equation with a picture, and you're going to have to calculate the slope. That's okay. That green slope is what I'm talking about, that initial slope, the slope of the original. Sometimes that gets a little tricky on how you find that. Right? So just be careful whether it's given to you as, maybe it'll say, find a point that is perpendicular to segment AB, and they give you the coordinates of AB and goes through point S. Okay. Maybe they'll say, look at the graph and find the slope. Maybe they'll give you an equation. It says it has to be parallel to the line 2x plus 3y equals 5 and goes through a certain point. That's fine. What you need to do is first find the original slope. The second thing you want to address, find either the parallel or perpendicular slope. The third thing you want to address is plug it all into the proper equation. All right, guys, that is how you find the equation of a line through a point, given that it is parallel or perpendicular to another line. I hope this helps. As always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.